But I want to start off this show talking about the biggest events of last week, and they both involved the same team, the Baltimore Orioles. What a monumental week for the Orioles it was. A week that probably their fans will remember for quite some time. It started, of course, with the news that the Angelos family will be selling a controlling stake of the club to a group led by a private equity investor named David Rubinstein. The guy is a native of Baltimore. He's someone who has done a lot in his career. He's been involved in philanthropy. Obviously, someone with deep pockets. Forbes valued him at $3.7 billion. That was pretty good news for the Orioles fans, of course, but as I wrote in The Athletic, it took me back to 1993, back when I was at the Baltimore Sun, and the auction that took place when the Orioles were sold the last time to Peter Angelos. This was a bankruptcy auction. It took place in a sweltering New York City courtroom. It was quite an electric moment. It was Angelos with Bill DeWitt, owner of the Cardinals, against Jeffrey Loria, who, of course, would later go on to own the Marlins. Angelos won with a bid of $173 million. It was at the time a record for a sports franchise. Think about that. And now, all of these years later, we have a very similar scenario. Local guy, deep pockets, the seeming savior of the franchise. Obviously, Angelos had his good points and a lot of bad points as well. So you never know what you're quite getting with an owner. But my goodness, could it be any worse than it has been the last few years under Peter Angelos' son, John Angelos? Peter, of course, has been incapacitated since 2018, so John has been running the club. And John, well, it's not just the low payrolls that have gotten everyone. It's conduct unbecoming of a steward of a franchise. What am I talking about? Oh, let's see. The suspension of Kevin Brown, the broadcaster, who was immensely popular and gifted. The confrontation with the Athletics' Dan Connolly, the lecture he gave him when Dan asked a question about, maybe one day selling the team. Good question, it turned out. And of course, the coup de grace of this whole thing, you saw the reaction, perhaps you didn't, from Maryland state officials when this news was announced last week. They felt that they were at best misled and at worst lied to during the lease negotiations for Camden Yards. They just signed a lease recently. So it can't get worse. And in fact, with the Rubinstein Group, it should get a lot better simply with the momentum the franchise has right now and the momentum taking place in the city of Baltimore right now. Now, with the franchise, we all know what's going on there. Won 101 games last year. They just added Corbin Burns. We'll get to that in a second. They are in a great, great place. Team is on the rise. It's the perfect time for a new owner. They have a new lease, as I just mentioned. It's going to be for at least 15 years and most likely for 30 years. That lease includes $600 million in improvements to one of the game's great gems already, Camden Yards. And finally, you have what seems to be happening in Baltimore, a place where I lived for a long time, a coming revival of downtown. There are plans to reimagine and redo Harbor Place. That, of course, is the centerpiece of downtown Baltimore. So a lot of good things are happening there. And again, for the Rubinstein Group coming in at this time, wow, you're taking something that is really good already and could get a lot better. Obviously, fans are going to be looking forward to this team spending more money. Can't spend any less. And that, too, will be a good thing. The other thing with the Orioles last week, and of course, this was the bigger on-field development, the trade for Corbin Burns seemed to come out of nowhere because there hadn't been a lot of talk about Corbin Burns in the last, month to 6 weeks. But the Brewers ultimately decided to make the move finally. And actually, the Orioles gave up a lot considering what they were getting. It's not just the quality of Corbin Burns. We all know how good he is. 2021 Cy Young winner. It's more that he's under club control for only 1 year. And generally for players of that type, no matter how good they are, the price is depressed. But the Brewers acquired two guys who have been top 100 prospects and are major league ready. DL Hall was in the majors last year and was pretty darn good. Joey Ortiz made his debut as well. And these guys can step into the Brewers and really be significant players for them perhaps as early as this season. Most likely as early as this season. Brewers also received the 34th pick in the upcoming draft. So that was a good haul. But if you're the Orioles, you do this. You do this every day of the week, and you do it because your team, as we've talked about all offseason, was missing a top of the rotation starter. Now, some Orioles fans were saying, well, we're good. We've got Bradish. We've got Grayson Rodriguez, John Meade. No. You're good, but now you're a lot better. Corbin Burnes makes this rotation look deep. He makes it look just much different than it would without him. He's going to be someone that can give them a presence every fifth day that, frankly, Grayson Rodriguez is not ready to be just yet. And even Bradish. These guys are good. Two of the best pitchers in baseball in the second half, and maybe they'll become more Burnes-like this season. But they're not Corbin Burnes just yet. So for the Orioles, really good stuff all week. And we all look forward to seeing them play this year. And we all look forward to seeing what this new ownership is going to bring. If you missed the details, the Rubinstein Group takes 40% now. And then they have the option to get the final 60% later. This is, of course, all pending Major League approval, but that is expected.